The studio lights blazed hot, but it wasn't the cameras or the audience that made the room feel heavy. It was the tension. From the moment Senator John Kennedy walked onto the stage of The View, everyone sensed the energy was different. He had been invited to speak about policy, unity, and leadership, but nobody expected what would happen next. The interview began smoothly, with the hosts greeting him politely, but as the discussion turned to politics, the temperature of the conversation shifted. Sunny Hostin, known for her sharp commentary, leaned forward in her chair, her voice steady but cutting. She challenged him, pressing him with accusations about his values, his motives, and his character. At first, Kennedy did what he always did. He smiled warmly, cracked a light-hearted joke, and tried to keep the mood calm. But it didn't take long before it was clear that Sunny wasn't just asking questions. She was attacking. She cut him off mid-sentence, rolled her eyes at his explanations, and raised her voice to drown out his answers. The audience, caught between laughter and discomfort, shifted uneasily in their seats. Kennedy's hands rested calmly on the table, but his eyes told another story. They weren't angry, they were disappointed. He had come there hoping for a respectful dialogue, a chance to show that two sides could disagree and still find common ground. Instead, he was being shouted down, his words twisted, his intentions mocked. Finally, Sunny leaned in and said with sharp finality, "Senator, people like you are the reason this country is so divided. You don't care about unity, you care about power." The audience gasped. For a moment, time seemed to freeze. Kennedy's smile faded. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't throw back an insult. Instead, he pushed his chair back slowly, the legs scraping against the studio floor. The sound echoed louder than her words. "I came here today," he said, his Louisiana drawl soft but firm, "to have a real conversation. Not to be talked over, not to be insulted, and certainly not to be accused of things I've spent my life fighting against." He paused, looking around the room, making eye contact with the audience, the crew, even his critics. "If this is what passes for discussion, the broken bar, I'm done with this show." The silence was deafening. The hosts were stunned. Sunny blinked, caught off guard, her usual confidence wavering for the first time that morning. The cameras zoomed in on Kennedy as he rose from his chair. He wasn't storming out in anger, he was standing with quiet dignity, making a choice that spoke louder than any argument could. As he turned to leave, the audience erupted not in boos, but in applause. It wasn't about politics anymore. It was about respect. It was about a man refusing to be belittled, choosing to walk away rather than feed the fire of hostility. Backstage, one of the producers caught up with him. "Senator, I'm so sorry about what happened out there." Kennedy gave a weary smile. "Don't be. Sometimes walking away is the strongest thing you can do." Folks at home don't need to see more shouting matches. They need to see what respect looks like, even when it means saying goodbye. And indeed, as clips of the moment spread across the internet, millions of people resonated with his words. Some agreed with his politics, others didn't, but almost everyone saw something they respected: courage, composure, and a reminder that integrity doesn't require anger, it requires boundaries. Sunny herself faced a storm of criticism afterward. She tried to defend her approach, but even some of her loyal viewers admitted she had crossed the line. For Kennedy, though, it wasn't about winning. It was about showing that the real strength in a debate isn't in who yells the loudest, it's in who knows when enough is enough. The inspiring message left behind was clear: in a world where people argue endlessly to prove themselves right, sometimes the greatest power lies in choosing not to argue at all. Kennedy didn't just shut down a host that day, he reminded millions of Americans that respect, dignity, and composure are values worth holding on to, no matter how loud the world gets. And with that, the chapter closed, not in anger, but in a standing ovation for the kind of leadership that refuses to play the game of division.